Welcome to the Teen Tix Art Podcast, also known as TAP, a Seattle-based youth podcast that focuses on empowering youth voices through the exploration of art. Here on this podcast, we share our favorite artistic influences by exploring their histories and cultural impacts. But not by only offering our perspective as teens. We interview artists, from emerging teen artists to ones well-established in their careers. I'm Kaden.
And I'm Blue. Today we're talking about the legacy of the Riotgrrrl movement, its impact and its flaws, and why it's still important for us to talk about today. Joining us is Vivi Annis, a local femme punk musician, and we'll get her perspective on Riotgrrrl and its impact on her. So a little bit of background. When Riotgrrrl, the term, was first created, the word girl was used intentionally to focus on childhood and to reclaim girlhood, a time when women have the highest belief in themselves. A triple R was used to replace the IR in girl to take back the derogatory use of the word. I chose Riotgrrrl as the topic for this episode because it's a movement that is super special and important to me, especially as a lesbian. I learned about Riotgrrrl when I was around 13, and it really helped me in discovering my queer identity. I read a lot of essays and zines written by women that were a part of the Riotgrrrl movement, and it made me feel really seen and understood, especially in the pandemic when that was happening for me. It just really spoke to me. I've also loved Riotgrrrl music for that long, and I love the lyrics, and I just love the music in general. I'm 17 now, and being a genderqueer lesbian is really important to me in my identity. And I don't know if I would have been able to understand myself the way I do without having discovered Riotgrrrl at that time in my life. It was just really important for me, so I wanted to talk about it for this podcast.
Yeah, could you give us a quick run-through on Riotgrrrl history for the people who've just heard about this movement?
Yeah, so when you think of the Pacific Northwest music scene in the 90s, you probably are thinking of grunge. But the Riotgrrrl scene was exploding in Olympia at the same time, with bands like Bikini Kill, Bratmobile, and Heavens to Betsy. Riotgrrrl isn't just a music scene, though. It was a movement that spoke to many young women and femme-presenting people all over the world, especially in Washington State and Washington, D.C. Punk ideas and ideologies resonated with women, but they often felt excluded by the male-dominated scene in the 90s and just in general. They created their own spaces, and Riotgrrrl meetings became a place for women to talk, share stories, make zines, and uplift and encourage each other to make spaces for themselves in the punk scene and in their daily lives. Riotgrrrl slowed to a stop in the late 1990s and early 2000s, but social media has allowed it to have a resurgence among today's generation of young people who are applying and adapting Riotgrrrl to empower each other and themselves.
On that topic, I first learned about Riotgrrrl on TikTok a couple years ago. I was 12 and kept scrolling on, and from then it didn't really pop onto my For You page, and I didn't really know much about the movement. But when Blue suggested Riotgrrrl as an episode topic, I was immediately interested by their description of it. At the time, and still now honestly, I was just starting to lean into my femininity and queerness, since for a pretty hefty chunk of time, I was neglecting these aspects of my identity. Personally, I think that learning about movements, music, and art that were made and led by people with a shared aspect of your identity can be one of the best things for yourself. There's a really strong comfort you could get from it, and I think it's really, really valuable, especially when you're a younger teen or even when you're older. It's just really nice, I guess. I have nothing else to say. It's just a really nice feeling. But I think it's really important to continue to talk and discuss about it, especially because a lot of times that we as in teens sometimes think that culture movements are really old, but they really aren't that ancient, and there's a lot going on right now, and not even that long ago. So
yeah,
Riotgrrrl. So
yeah,
sorry.
No, I think it's really interesting because I also learned about Riotgrrrl from TikTok and social media in general. But I think it's interesting that you were well, not put off by it, but it just wasn't something that was interesting to you to keep learning about. But for me, it was the complete opposite. I saw this and I got super excited, and I was oh my gosh, this is so cool, and this is happening. Especially because I'm from Seattle and we're in Seattle right now, and this was happening in Olympia, which is really close, and I was just oh my gosh, this is so cool, and I got super into it. It's really important to me now, so I just think it's really cool that we kind of had the opposite.
Yeah, then it it's a circle comes all together at the end. It's now you're teaching me about it, and it's really cool. So
Riotgrrrl emerged to hold space for women in the punk movement, and Riotgrrrls adapted punk values and sentiments like nonconformity and a DIY culture and made them more inclusive and accessible to women. They expressed anger and talked about rape culture, patriarchy, and they advocated for female empowerment, reproductive rights, and other feminist politics in do-it-yourself publications reproduced on copy machines called zines, like you see here if you're watching on YouTube, and through punk music and community spaces. Riotgrrrl encouraged girls to the front at shows and offered women a reduced price to get into the venue. Making space for women in the punk scene in these ways empowered women to make space for themselves in political spaces outside of Riotgrrrl, and also in Riotgrrrl.
Yeah, the zines are really, really cool. Sorry, that's...
Yeah.
They're really cool.
Yeah, Kaden loves the zines.
I remember in one of our meetings, I just ended up reading one for like 5 minutes and not doing any work. And so then it became like a motivation to like do work, to read another zine.
Wow.
So
Amazing.
Riotgrrrl music was more DIY, emotionally charged and powerful, rather than focusing on technical skills, which is common in punk music genres. The music aspect of Riotgrrrls was another way that women were inspired, and often seeing and listening to women making the music they loved to listen to made them feel like they could do it too.
Yeah. On that topic, our guest for this episode is a friend of mine, Vivi Annis, a young musician based in Seattle, Washington. Her guitar style is inspired by various elements of grunge, psychedelic rock, blues, and Riotgrrrl. Vivi first picked up the guitar when she was 15 and in turn was a part of a few short-term bands with her friends throughout high school. The first musical group she belonged to was a Riotgrrrl band called Moody Bloom, where she met Gwyneth, the drummer of her current band, Femmes Eat Fruit.
And Blue's actually wearing a shirt, so...
Yeah, I know.
That says Femmes Eat Fruit.
I'm just repping Femmes Eat Fruit.
Yeah, just little plug.
Yeah. Hi, Vivi. Thank you for
Hi,
joining
Blue.
us. Oh my gosh. Okay, so my first question, just a little background. So how did you get into music and the music scene, and what inspires you to create?
I got into music. I've pretty much been immersed in it my whole life. My dad listened to like Tool and Alice in Chains and all of the dad rock bands and like Creed when I was younger, and I would always see these like glorified angelic male like just like imagery on the TV, and I saw it and I went, I want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I want to do. And my dad used to play guitar when he was younger, and so did my grandpa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's contributed a lot to my art and what I like to make. And the electric guitar that I play on right now is my grandpa's old Telecaster that he painted pink for me, which is because he's a sweetheart and I love
That's
him.
so sweet.
I know.
Aw.
He's literally the greatest ever. I love my grandpa. He's adorable. I love him.
Mhm.
And he grew up listening to like Lead Belly and Johnny Cash, so that obviously had an impact on me. And what else did you ask? I'm so sorry. I just
That's
forgot
okay.
halfway through.
No, just like, what about like the music scene? Like, what is your experience with that and getting into that?
I first got into the music scene sophomore year, I would say, because I've always really been into like guitar and playing guitar, but I never really got introduced to the music scene till high school, when I had other friends that were involved with the music scene that were like, hey, come to this thing that's happening at this random skate park at like 8 p.m. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool and awesome. And I would say I've had a pretty good experience overall. There have been a few creeps, but that happens in all spaces, which sucks, but it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But
Sadly.
yeah.
Very sadly. Yeah. What is your personal connection with Riotgrrrl, and how did you get into Riotgrrrl?
I got into Riotgrrrl when I was about 16 years old, and I got this whole album. I got Live Through This because I thought the CD looked really cute because it had a heart on it.
That's so real.
Right? And I was like, I feel like this resonates with me. And I started listening to it, and I heard Doll Parts for the first time, and it just completely changed the trajectory of my entire life. And I was a part of this band called, oh my God, what were we called? I think we were called Bell Jar.
Like the bell jar?
Yeah, like Sylvia Plath. But
Wow.
I thought it was fun. And I would hang out with my little buddies in my friend's basement, and we would just talk and like cover whole songs, and it was really fun. And I think Riotgrrrl music has this special connection with femininity and feminine empowerment that a lot of other genres don't have. And it made me kind of realize, like, oh, just because there's certain people that maybe the music scene is centered on doesn't mean that it only belongs to those people. Like, everybody's voice matters, and it's so important to have your voice amplified, especially when you're an artist and you want to get messages out to other young people, and especially young femmes that want to come into the scene. I think it's really important. But yeah.
What has your experience performing been like?
It's been really great. I'm really grateful to have been in an environment that I think is personally super diverse, and I've met so many other cool musicians and queer people especially that have just been so welcoming and like, yes, this is exactly what we want to hear, and people that have just been so excited that something like Femmes Eat Fruit is like a thing that's happening today. Like, we just got interviewed by this zine. Oh my gosh, what is it called? I totally blanked on the name. They're gonna kill me later, it's okay. But just meeting other like femmes of color and having them talk about their experiences is so important to me, and I want to make the space that, at least at the shows that we're playing, I want it to be like a safer space for femmes. And I don't just mean like mosh pits are scary. Like, that's not what I'm trying to say. I mean, like, I don't want to have people come into the space and be worried about getting preyed on by other people, because that's not what you go to shows for. That's not what anybody goes to shows for.
Yeah, you're going there to have like a fun time and like listen to the music, and
Yeah.
I think that's really awesome that you like. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have peeked on the mic. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
No, you.
No,
my
I said
gosh.
me.
no,
you're good.
You're good. You're perfect. Yeah, that reminds me like a lot of that's a lot of like that's like what like Riotgrrrl was like at the beginning. Like, people
Yeah.
were doing like Bikini Killa was Kathleen Hanna, Girls to the Front, like all that. I feel like that's really amazing that you're keeping that alive. I love that. This
Two
kind
thumbs
of yeah, it kind of like leads into the next question, which is like how has Riotgrrrl impacted the way you interact with music and the music scene?
I think Riotgrrrl has made me realize that it is so important to figure out the roots of where music is coming from. Like, when you see artists like Led Zeppelin, everybody forgets to talk about like Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters and the artists that were artists of color that these people were inspired by.
say it.
Yeah.
Stole.
Oh, you can say
Um,
it's a safe space.
Maybe not in the comments, but it's okay.
We'll just turn them off.
You're right.
That's
You're
so
right.
true. That's so true. Sorry if I peeked on the mic there for a second.
It's okay.
But-
That's
I think it's, what was the question again? I'm so sorry.
fine. No, it's okay.
Be
How
sorry.
has
You're right.
Riotgrrrl impacted the way you interact with music and the music scene?
It's, I think, seeing what the Riotgrrrl bands of the past have done and seeing how they've fought so I can't even think of the word. It's just so amazing. Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. But just seeing how empowered other women and femme people feel at those events, and how powerful the messages in their songs, I feel so happy about it. And I think that
That's amazing.
totally
I love
forgot.
that.
but-
I could feel the emotion from the song.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. I felt moved.
Yeah, my face is speaking for itself. I feel like it's okay.
Yeah. The people who are listening to just the audio will be missing out. FOMO.
It's my favorite hobby.
That's
Still FOMO.
yeah.
Oh, please cut that out.
Okay. Where are you finding community and inspiration as a musician?
I would say definitely my closer friends, like my circle, because I'm now part of a very musically inclined friend group, and they're all super awesome and accepting, and I just feel super safe with them. I find inspiration through the stories that my friends tell me about, like, being in spaces where they didn't necessarily feel welcome or safe, and I try to incorporate that emotion into like the riffs that I make, if that makes sense, because when you we don't have anything out yet, but like if you were to listen to a Femmes Eat Fruit song, if it was on Spotify, most of the riffs sound really angry and quick, and I really hope that people are listening to the message behind the songs instead of just the words, because I feel like so much gets lost in translation, especially with, I know there's a lot of popularity around people saying like, oh, kill all men, and then men look at that and go, oh my god, what? But sorry, I need to remember to keep my voice down so I'm not
No,
screaming.
you're doing great.
Okay, thank you guys. You're so kind.
You're also like in the same area, so you're doing amazing.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're
You're
doing
so
great.
kind. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for having me here.
No, thank you for coming here. Oh my god, you're the guest.
No, it's so great to have you here.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think it's important to listen to the message that people are sending instead of just listening to your triggers, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Radical feminism, like what is represented in the Riotgrrrl scene, also often leads to transphobia, and Riotgrrrl is not the exception. A lot of issues talked about within Riotgrrrl and the language used was not inclusive to trans women and femme-identifying and presenting people who are not AFAB or assigned female at birth. The resurgence of Riotgrrrl has allowed young people to make these critiques and reshape Riotgrrrl to make it relevant and empowering for them.
So awesome.
So, how do you think the younger generation has adapted Riotgrrrl to make it more inclusive?
I think that the younger generation has taken inspiration from past Riotgrrrl bands and kind of done their own thing with it, like made a new recipe, you know? Especially to make spaces more inclusive, because it was very white dominated, and I think it's important to remember that. And it's important to empower your fellow people of color and femmes of color and women of color, especially in these spaces in the music scene in Seattle, because there is a lot of violence so much of the time, and it's important to remember to fight for each other, not just like saying this one group is experiencing this one problem, but I think the way that it has been molded into the modern day kind of Riotgrrrl that's happening right now, I think that we've taken the past and kind of taken bits and pieces from it and incorporated it and are working to make it a more inclusive and diverse space.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's our last question.
I thought you had an answer.
Oh, that was just an answer if she needed inspiration. But
Oh, whoopsie daisies.
but that was a great answer. I loved
Thank you
it.
so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Yes, it was so amazing. Yeah. Do you want to plug anything?
What do you mean plug? Like
where you can find your band?
Your Instagram, maybe?
Oh, yeah. You can find us at Femmes Eat Fruit on Instagram. We're trying to release stuff on Spotify soon, or SoundCloud or something. There will definitely be music out at some point.
Amazing.
We'll keep our eyes out for it.
Keep your eyes and ears open.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so awesome.
Yay. That's all we have for this episode. Thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode and you learned something about Riotgrrrl. A special thanks to everyone behind the scenes who helped make this happen, especially the Vera Project for the recording space, Ground Zero Radio for the help in producing Tap, and Totem Star recording artist Lily Indigo for the music you heard at the beginning of this episode. And thank you to our interviewee, Vivi Annis, for taking the time to talk to us. Join us for part 2 of this episode on Riotgrrrl, where we will interview a founding member of one of the most important Riotgrrrl bands, Allison Wolf from Bratmobile. Woo! Thanks.